We have done a lot of times with prefab shooting. Okay, so in this tutorial we will cover up the laser one. So if I shoot, as you can see, we can shoot lasers and damage enemies like this. Okay, so without furthering delay, let's get into this topic. Create a player shoot script. Go to assets, right click, create shoot script, name it to player shoot or player fire. Okay, and attach the script to our player game object or any game object you want to shoot out from. So I already have attached, so drag the script to this add component section. So I already have drag it, so I'm gonna remove this one and double click that to open up in Visual Studio. Okay, double click that to open up in Visual Studio. So we will move over to update function and we will check. Okay, we will check if input dot get mouse button down. Okay, get mouse button down into brackets. If you pass 0, it means the left mouse button. Okay, and if you pass 1, it will be map up to your right mouse button on your mouse. So let's check for the left one and make some curly brackets. So what we want to do when we click on left mouse button. Okay, so once we click on left mouse button, let's create a separate function for our shoot. So let's for function we have to type void. Let's call this function to be shoot, make first bracket and some curly brackets. So into this function, firstly if it's working or not, let's check that. So we have to type debug.log to see a message in the console. Let's say for shooting shoot laser. Okay, shoot laser, and close that off with semicolon, and let's call this function on once we click left mouse button. Okay, over here, if input dot get mouse button down, if we pressing the left mouse button, so let's call this function which is our shoot, and so call this function make first bracket and end up with semicolon. So and what this function is doing, it's just printing out the message in the console says shoot laser. Okay, so control S to save your code. Let's go to Unity. Once we click our left mouse button, the message will pop out right away, says shoot laser. It's up to you what you want to say. Okay, so for testing, for checking if it's working or not, and later on we will create the array. So select the console in the bottom and clear it little bit and hit play in the top. And once we try to click our left mouse button, we calling that shoot function, and shoot function just printing out the message says shoot laser in the console as you seen there. Okay, so if I try to as many time as I'm clicking left mouse button, it's just printing out shoot laser message one upon one after and each one. Okay, one after and another one. So double click that script to open up in 1 second. So instead of printing out message, we will shoot out the ray. To shoot out ray, we have to use this physics 2d. Okay, physics 2d dot raycast, physics2d.raycast. So this function over here will create the ray. Okay, and as a first argument you have to type uh, pass the position from where you want to shoot out. Okay, you have to pass the position from where you want to shoot out the laser, and the second thing, it will take the direction in which direction you want to shoot out that ray. Okay, and the third argument, it will take the length of the ray or the distance of the ray. Okay, and the fourth, it will take the layer mask, basically which layer you want to target, if it's enemy, ground or any other. So in my case, enemy, so we have to assign enemy layer. So before we create the ray, we need to assign those variable in the top of our script. So let's make it for comment by double slash, and let's go top of the class. First thing, we need the position, so let's create public field, so that will be transform for position. Let's call this to shoot point. Okay, and the second thing, it will take the length of the ray, okay, or the distance. So let's create another public field to see inspector and float. Let's call this to one distance, and by default I am going to set or give 10 unit or 10f. And the third thing, it will take the layer mask, or sorry, fourth argument, as a fourth argument, layer mask, basically which layer we want to damage or target. So in my case, let's make it public one more time. This also should be public to say, so is set through inspector, that will be layer mask for our target. Let's call this one to target layer, and close that off with semicolon, and control S to save your code. Let's go to Unity and assign those variable. Firstly, of course, we need to assign, and after it we will able to shoot out. So first thing, as a we would expect to see shoot point. Okay, shoot point. So we need to create a shoot point in our player game object from where we want to shoot out. Okay, so we have shoot point as a first argument. We need to drag the reference. Okay, to do so, let's create a shoot point in our player game object. So right click player game object and create an empty child game object, and move it over top of your gun. Okay, move it over top of your gun from where you want to shoot out. Let's select an icon for it, this yellow one. Let's move it over here, and name this game object to shoot point to make it reasonable. So let's call this shoot point, and go to overrides and click on apply, so it will change in the prefab as well. And let's drag this shoot point to shoot point field. Now we have the shoot point from where we want to shoot out. So let's assign our target layer, which says nothing. Firstly, we need to assign our enemy as an enemy layer. To do so, select the enemy game object, or the game object you want to target. So select that and go to inspector. In the top right corner you can see layer which selected default, so click on that and hit this add layer, and let's create another layer. Okay, let's call this to enemy, and go back to that game object once again and assign that layer which is default to enemy, and click on overrides and apply all, so to change in the prefab as well if you made the game object prefab. Okay, so once it's done, let's go to player shoot script, and target layer which selected nothing, so choose this enemy in our case, in my case. Okay, it's up to you which layer you want to target. So let's open that script one more time, and use this raycast function. So let's pass as a first argument the position. So in our case, in my case, which is shoot point, so dot position we have to pass. So direction, so whatever direction a player is facing, or the shoot point, in that direction we just wanna shoot out that ray. So whatever direction shoot point is facing. Okay, so to do that we have to type shoot point dot right. It means whatever direction shoot point is facing. Okay, and the third argument, it will take the distance or the length of the ray. So let's pass this distance parameter, we assign it, and by default I set to 10. It's up to you how much you want. And the fourth argument, it will take the layer mask, which layer we want to target. Okay, so in my case I'm gonna pass this target layer. As a target layer I have chosen enemy, and close that off with semicolon. This function can be true or false. Okay, so it will create the ray from this shoot point with shoot point direction and distance, and target layer we assign it. So this function can be true or false. If the ray is really colliding with this target layer, so this function will be true, else this function will be false. So let's store the result, okay, into another variable, and that will be raycast hit 2d, because this is an raycast. So let's use this raycast hit 2d. Okay, and let's call this a variable to hit, or hit info. Let's set equal to this. So this hit can be true or false depending upon if the ray is really colliding with this target layer or not. So if this one becomes true, so this hit over here will be true because we directly setting it, and if it's false, so the hit over here will be false. Okay, so let's go to down and we will check. So let's use if condition. So if hit is true, equals to true, or if hit, it also means the same thing, make some curly brackets, means the ray is really colliding with this target layer. Okay, so in that case, for now let's print out the name. Okay, so we have to use debug.log for it. So let's print out the name of the game object whatever we hit with or the ray collided with. Okay, so let's say firstly add a custom message. So in quotation we have to type, so laser hit with okay, and plus let's suppose we wanna print out the name of the game object whatever the ray has been collided with. So firstly we need to go to hit, and we can extract info whatever we hit with by going to this hit variable. Okay, we can extract info like name, tag, whatever we want. So let's go to firstly hit, then transform of that game object, and by that transform reference let's grab the name of the game object. Okay, and close that off with semicolon, control S to save your code. Let's go to Unity. So once the ray is colliding with that target layer, so this function over here, oh sorry, this hit over here will be true. And if hit is true, what we doing, we just printing out the message says laser hit with and the name of the game object whatever the ray has been collided with. Okay, once we click the left mouse button, we calling this shoot function, and as we know what shoot function is doing. So let's go to Unity and select the console in the bottom. Okay, console in the bottom, and hit this play button in the top. And once the ray collide with this enemy, we definitely gonna collide, ray definitely gonna collide with enemy, or we have chosen enemy layer, we know. Okay, so the game object will be print out in the console. So let's click left mouse button. Okay, click left mouse button. As you can see, as many time as I am clicking, the message printing many times, okay, in the console. So it's working, but we are not able to see our ray. As you can see, once I click left mouse button, so we need to see able to our ray to if it's really colliding with this enemy or not. Just we want to see a visible message for it. Okay, currently the ray is invisible, we not able to see that. Okay, to see a visual appealing, hit this add component on player game object and attach a line renderer by typing it, and go over to line renderer. Over here we have with, so I'm gonna remove one more time. Let's one more time. I just have some problem. Yes, now it's fine. Okay, so what we need, so as you can see over here underneath size position, we have start x y z position. Okay, so we need to assign those position once we click left mouse button and shoot out our ray. Okay, so go over to firstly materials or in line renderer section. Okay, and which is selected by default none material, so click on that slot. Okay, and choose a default one, and go over to size. Underneath size, let's put it 1, and you can scale up your x position of that index of x. You can scale your line renderer. Okay, and you can change the width of your laser or the line renderer by shrinking down this width to the bottom. So and you can choose a color you like by going to this color field. You can choose any color you like, so let's suppose red. Okay, if you wanna have tint you can do that, or you can fixed. Okay, so I'm gonna go to blend and it's fine. Oh, so I'm gonna make it a little bit like this. Okay, so we have this line, and you can play around with this value to get a perfect line renderer or shooting. So over here I'm gonna set back to 0. I just want to control this line renderer when we shoot out or click left mouse button. So let's put it at 0 once again. Let's move over to our player script. Of course we need to grab the reference of line renderer firstly, and then we can set the index or the position of the line renderer. Okay, so let's make a public variable for it, which is line renderer, we know. Okay, and let's call that to lr for line renderer, and let's go to our shoot function. So once we hit, okay, we want to show up that line renderer. Okay, to show we have to use lr dot set position. Okay, set position, and over here we have to pass the start position. Okay, start position, so where we as an index let's pass 0 for the first. Okay, and the next thing, it will take the position. So we will pass shoot point dot position from where we want to shoot out that ray. So we definitely gonna shoot out that ray from our shoot point dot position, and we also have to pass the end of the ray okay, ray or the line renderer position. So once we hit over here, we doing in hit function, okay, sorry, hit statement, means the ray is colliding with our enemy. So let's set the end position of the ray. So we have to use lr dot set position, okay, and the first argument we have to pass the index. So let's pass 1, means the second, okay, and the position, which is a factor 3. So in this case, the ray will collide with enemy, so we have to pass over here. So we will pass hit dot point, means wherever the ray has been collided with, so it's definitely gonna collide with enemy. So we just passing hit dot point, means the ray is colliding with enemy, okay. So close that off with semicolon. So but it always not will be the same case. Once the if also the ray will not collide of more time with our enemy, okay. In that case, we still wanna show up our ray. So we have to use this else condition, means the ray is not colliding with anything. So make this curly brackets and copy this line of code and paste it down in else function, okay. Instead, so we will not gonna have an end point like that. So instead, what we will do, we will add, so shoot point dot position, okay, shoot shoot point dot position, and top of it we will add the direction, okay, direction of the shoot point or the laser we shooting. So let's pass shoot point dot right, and let's multiply with some unit. So let's multiply with our distance or the length of the ray, okay, and close that off with semicolon. So so once the ray is colliding with enemy, firstly we setting the start position, which is we have to pass the index as a first argument, which is 0, and the second thing, we have to pass the from where we want to shoot out. So we definitely gonna shoot out that shoot point dot position. So we have passed as a second argument, and the next thing, we also have to set the end position of that line renderer or the ray, okay, line renderer basically. So lr dot set position, okay. So we have to pass the index as a first argument, which is 1 in our case, and the second argument we have to pass the end position. So in our case, this hit, the ray will collide with enemy, okay, enemy. So hit dot point means the ray is colliding with enemy, and just we passing that position, okay. Hit dot point means the ray point that just collided, okay. And once but we will always not be the same case once the ray is not colliding with our enemy. So in that situation, with the start, we setting the start position of the line renderer from our shoot point dot position. So in this situation, we don't will not gonna have the end position. So in this case, we just adding our shoot point, and top of it with adding the direction in which direction we are setting the shooting that laser, and multiplying with this distance, okay, multiplying with this distance. So control s to save your code. Let's go to unity and try to click our left mouse button. The line renderer will be shoot out from our shoot point dot position, okay. And once we click on the left side, in left side we don't have any enemy, so the ray will not collide. So in that situation, we just infinitely setting our line runner base, not infinitely with setting this distance. It's up to you how much want to have in your game. If you want, you can have that. So just wait. Once it's done, once it's done, so now clear the console a little and hit play in the top. So once we click on left mouse button, we will shoot out that ray from our shoot point dot position. As a first argument, we have to pass the index, okay. So let's click Okay, so we also need to drag the reference, we just forgot it. So make sure you drag the reference line renderer to line renderer field. Now we have the reference. Okay, now if we hit play in the top and try to shoot and click left mouse button, the ray will be shoot from the line renderer will be visible from shoot point. So now try to click. As you can see, the line is just getting spawned or setting in which direction we are shooting. Okay, so we not gonna stay. Okay, we definitely gonna uh, set that line to be inactive once we don't click left mouse button or don't shoot. So to do so, we just have to set this line renderer to be enable or disable, or okay, like this. As you can see, we have to set this to enable or disable. To do so, let's open up our player script one more time. Let's control that via our code. So once we click our left mouse button over here, okay, so after 1 second or one frame, we just want to disable that line. Okay, after clicking on left mouse button, so we have to use this. So firstly we will go to lr dot enable, means this we just going to over here line renderer, and we will set to enable. Firstly we will set to true, and after one frame or some second, we just want to be disabled. Okay, so after like lr dot enabled, okay, let's set it to false one more time. So we have to specify the time over here, but we cannot use that in normal function. We just have to use a I enumerator. It's extremely pretty scary, but just right after me, it's pretty simple to do. So to do so, you make sure you have include this namespace using unity engine. Okay, unity engine dot system on, sorry, not system dot collection. You make sure this space namespace is included in your class, okay, in your script. If it's so let's replace this void into an I enumerator. So we have to use this I enumerator, and as you can see, a red line became underneath our shoot name. Okay, so what we have to do, so we have to use this yield. Okay, yield return new. Okay, new, wait for second, and into brackets you can specify the time, and after that amount of time, this lr or that line render will be disabled. Okay, will be inactive by itself after that amount of time. So let's put 1f.1 second. Okay, a pretty small number, and close that off with semicolon. And we cannot call this function directly like this. We have to use start coroutine, and into that we have to feed the function name. So let's use start coroutine instead for our I enumerator, and into brackets we have to pass the function name, which in our case should. Okay, so make this first bracket and close that up with semicolon. Control S to save your code. Let's go to unity. So after this amount of time, that line render will be disabled. Okay, so lr dot enable dot false means we just setting that line and renderer to be inactive. Okay, firstly we setting active. Once we click our left mouse button, firstly we setting that to active, and after this amount of time we setting back to false, means we just setting inactive. Okay, you can specify that time. Control S to save your code, and let's go to unity. It will take a few seconds for compiling it. When it's done, hit play, and you would notice, you will able to notice that. Okay, so and let's click on the play button. And once we click left mouse button, firstly we just setting that lr to be enabled. Okay, and after that amount of time we setting back to this one to false. So in the start of the game we should set active this one to be false. Okay, we should do that. So as you can see, after that amount of time, it just setting getting a inactive. Okay, as you can see in the inspector as well. So that is cool thing. But we not but anyway we not damaging our enemy. To do so, let's open up our script one more time. Over here we just printing out the name of the game object whatever the ray is colliding. Okay, so instead we wanna damage our enemy. So in enemy script I have created a take damage function. Okay, take damage function, and this function over here just responsible for subtracting max health from enemy. Okay, so let's call this function. When we call this function, it will subtract from our max health by this damage. Okay, so let's go to our player shoot script one more time. So instead of printing out message, let's damage our enemy. So firstly we have to use this find object of type. Okay, into errors we have to pass the script name. Okay, in our case which is enemy, and in that script we have created that take damage function. So let's access that and call it. So take damage, and in brackets we have to pass the damage parameter or the argument. So let's pass 1. So if we pass 1 it will subtract from our max health by 1 unit, but if you pass 2 it will subtract from our max health by 2 units. So let's pass 1 and close that off with semicolon. Control S to save your code. Let's go to Unity. Okay, so once we click on left mouse button, so enemy will get damage, and we just able to see our line renderer or laser. Okay, and after that 1.1 second it just getting disabled itself. We firstly you need to set this line renderer to be inactive or disable in the start of the game. Just we controlling once we click on left mouse button. Okay, so let's play in the top, and once we click on left mouse button we just able to see that line. Okay, so just wait for to compile, and also we damaging our enemy. So let's 1 2, as you can see the enemy gets destroyed once we try to shoot last time. Okay, so that is cool thing. I hope you get the basics idea of it, how you can shoot out with lasers or able to see the lasers. Okay, so thanks for watching lastly this tutorial.